Welcome back, everybody. Episode 7 of PTBO Connect. We're joined by the boys of Haven Brewery. Haven Brewery out of Peterborough, Ontario. And it's really exciting. We're coming into spring, summer. Obviously, that's when beer starts flowing more than ever. Sports season, all that fun stuff. So thanks for coming, guys. I'm excited to talk to you, pick your brains a bit, and share what's coming up next for you guys.
Awesome. Great to be here.
Awesome. So Andrew and Nathan, I believe if I remember, and we met briefly at the brewery going back about a year now, you guys bought Haven under a different name, going back a couple years now?
Yep. So we agreed to purchase it actually back in October of 2019.
Okay.
But with, the fun legal governments behind everything, it took 6 months for that to finally go through. So it was April 9th of 2020. So all of 2 or 3 weeks into the lovely pandemic thing that we don't really want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, no, fair enough. Because you're dealing a lot with the AGCO at that point, right? You're brewing, you're selling, you're transporting. We had to go through that with Y Drive. We were liquor licensed. What are you drinking?
Schwartz.
Perfect. We had to go through that when we went from, so Y Drive is a rideshare company, was liquor licensed. We did that from the start of the pandemic. And then once we actually got into the delivery service and launched Y Drive Eats, we had to move everything over. And yeah, nothing moves fast when you're dealing with the government. So yeah, I can see that. Now, if I remember, and I don't want to put words in your mouths, but one of you is kind of the business and the other one is the brewmaster. The other one is the passion behind what we know as Haven Brews.
So that's Andrew's the brewmaster.
Yeah, I've been brewing for 10 years. Went to Niagara College year 1, was the guinea pig class. Learned a lot, but you had to be smart to follow along because the curriculum was still getting established.
The teachers didn't know how to teach yet.
Yeah, that too.
They were mostly retired brewmasters.
Sounds like public school.
Yeah, they knew a heck of a lot of information. They just didn't know how to share it in an organized fashion. But we got through, and I think we learned more because of that. And we also got to build the brewery at the college, which is something with my dad's background. He had packaging companies, so we used to grow up on the packaging lines. During the summer, one of us would go in to make it easy on our mom. Mm-hmm. But so we had a packaging and machinery background. Then we got to build the brewery, and that's how I turned into a consultant for a few years, opening breweries across Canada, mostly in BC and Nova Scotia, but also one here in Ontario. And then it was time to open my own. And so we started looking, and then took over Smith Haven and turned it into Haven.
That's awesome. No,
we do not speak of that name. Haven. It's just Haven.
No, it is. It's Haven Brewery. I actually got back from out west, and then getting back involved in the market in Peterborough and small business in Peterborough. That's kind of right around when the name changed, and so that's all I've ever really known it as. I know when you guys invited me down to the brewery, going back a year and a half now. And I mentioned it to a few friends, specifically a couple friends that really enjoy a drink at night. And they were pretty excited. I guess they had been down since you guys had it and had some drinks, and said that they were pretty jealous that I got to go down and try some beer, which I didn't try that day. I left and I'm like, something was missing there. I didn't try anything, but
we got better at making sure there's beer in all our meetings.
I was wondering if there was going to be some beer here today. I've got drinks, but they're pushed aside now. I've got this to try. So going back to your educational background, I'm just curious, because I've done stuff like I went to school for collision repair and did an apprenticeship and stuff like that. Do you keep in touch? Like, if you don't have to name names because obviously there's a bit of a competitive edge, but if you look at your class at Niagara, is there a few that have started up breweries? Like, was it so there? Because that's what I love about I don't like the term craft brewery. I think that a brewery is a brewery. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. You make the beer you love and you do the best you can every day, whether you sell 1 million bottles or 100 bottles. But I love the local aspect. I do love that any city you go to, there's a beer that represents that city. And of course, there's people outside of Peterborough that love Haven Brewery, but there's also, I don't know, it just represents the city so well. Every single city has a distillery, a brewery. We're actually doing a fun thing with Y Drive. So I don't know if you guys know this, but when we got permission, and it was, I'll be honest, it was completely fluke. When we got permission to launch, so when we got that final call saying insurance is good, licensing is good, you can launch tomorrow, which it literally came down to that last minute. I went to the fridge at the shop, which is where my wife and I were, and we cracked open a Haven beer. And it wasn't even a beer I bought, I'll be honest. It was just in the fridge. And I'm like, oh, perfect. We had to celebrate with something, so we cracked it open, we drank it, and it started a trend. Every city we launch in now, we're going to specifically get something from that city to celebrate with that night. So we're launching in Grand Prairie, Alberta next. So I have a bottle on its way from a distillery in Grand Prairie, Alberta. And that local touch is so important. I know with Wide Drive Eats, we've put a lot of focus on wanting to get you guys on there and represent the local Peterborough. So you go in, you do what you're best at. You go in, you make beer.
Make beer and package it.
You take over a business with big ambitions. Like you were not content where the business was the day you guys got it. You have big ambitions of where you want to see it in 2, 5, 10 years.
100%.
What was that like for you? Like, I know you have a marketing and sales background, but this has got to be different.
Oh, it's very, very different. And I was going to speak on that even to like some of your previous points. Yeah, we're very focused on especially like local. And my background, it's marketing, it's advertisement, it's brand development. But I'm actually coming from an automotive background. So 7 years working for Porsche, I'll say it. Yeah. And it was a fantastic experience. You get a lot of business experience. You kind of learn a lot of the ropes. But moving from automotive to alcohol, completely different sort of thing.
Both fun.
Both fun.
Porsche and beer got to be like pretty equal on the balance. I think they're both a passion too. Like it's got to be. I've had a lot of sales jobs in my life. So I've sold hot tubs, I've sold cell phones, and then our own businesses, manufacturing companies, and all that. It's always more fun when you're involved in a product that is a positive passion. Like nobody's.
And that's something that we now reflect in everything that we do and that we're trying to bring into the company is it's just so much easier to sell something if it's a quality product that you can stand behind.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Whether it's $90,000, $100,000 Porsche or if it's a nice German style beer, that's the same kind of feeling that we're trying to bring into this. It's both about quality product and customer experience.
How often, and just again, because it's also unique that you guys are brothers. That's a very unique aspect, I'm sure, as you both laugh there. It's had its good days and its bad days.
Just to be honest, there's a third brother, and there's a reason that he's not a part of the company.
Ooh. How often does business clash with creative?
Every single day.
Every day.
Does it make the product and the business better, though? Like, do you push him to maybe get out of his comfort zone and vice versa?
Oh, yeah. You can be perfectly honest. I'm a bit of a pain in the ass.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, like he is the beer background. I trust him on everything that when it comes to beer, he's really good at making a quality product and kind of refining it. I think that's where a lot of his experience is.
My favorite part is between batches, the little tweaks that make it slightly better for the next one.
But of course, too, it's easy that, even though he is the guy that's making the beer, he's also a business owner. So he also has some administration and so on that he still has to do. And he's not the numbers guy, but it's only through that administration and so on that you can keep track of exactly what you've done and keep just making it better and better and better.
And I got to imagine at the start that was like, I obviously you guys both had kind of your gestures there, and I'm sure there's been some contention, but at the start it was probably a little more, you were out of your comfort zone, keeping track of things and numbers and all that, and then you rubbed off on him, vice versa, his creativity rubs off. But the fact that you're small enough that it is still the two of you at the helm, I know to compare, I'm not actually a huge wine drinker myself, but I've gone to a lot of wine tours because my wife is, thus the 5-liter bottle of red wine over your shoulder. And we got to stop by a place. It's called Between the Lines down in Niagara. And it's a very small winery. They're fairly new, and they've gone through the ups and downs in their first few years, just like everybody else. But what I love watching is, like, I actually have them on TikTok. I follow them on TikTok, and so I actually got a spotlight on them. I made a comment, and it got like highlighted in one of their TikToks. So it was one of my proud moments in life. But what I like is watching that behind the scenes aspect, like to see it be made, to see it be tweaked, like to talk to them and be like, this is what we did, but then we had this idea at the last minute, so we did this and it changed the flavor this way. You don't get that from a mass produced, like when the LCBO buys product from, say, Coors, they expect the same product every single time. Whereas you guys can be like, you know what? I got an idea. I'm going to run with this. And whether you sell it out of your own store, you sell it out of the LCBO, or whatever ends up happening with that one product, you have that creative ability still. Like, you can do what you want with it. Obviously, you've got to make sure he's happy on the number side, but it opens the door to creativity, which is fun.
And that's what's so important, is just finding time to have some fun still, because it's so easy to get stuck in the accounting, the numbers, and all of that. And that's where, at the start of the pandemic, we started what we call our Havoc Limited series. So the stout in front of you is actually one of them. And it's our Haven product. We stick to traditional European style beers that have existed for 500 years, and we just try to refine them a little bit more.
I was holding off till I read chocolate at the bottom.
Yep.
So yeah, this is getting open in a second. Oh, Matt's even got his open. All right, I'm falling behind here.
So Haven sticks to those traditional European styles where it's beer that we just know anyone coming in, they're going to enjoy it. They know exactly what they're getting. But then we started what we call the Havoc Limited series, and that was just because we wanted to have a little bit of fun. Yeah. And we actually have 2 small batches from that are coming out shortly, where it was quite simply we got a couple sample packs.
Sample ingredients from one of our suppliers and said, all right, let's do something with it.
So we have a Kveik, which is very different. Not many brewers have experimented with that. It's a yeast out of Scandinavia that's pretty popular over there. And
not anymore. It was extinct for a few
Okay,
well,
there's a reason he's the brewmaster.
I was about to say, there's that knowledge.
Yeah. And what was the other one? Why is that?
We did a wit.
Oh, a wit. That's a little bit more traditional European, but again, you just have to find some way to have fun with it, and that's why we do some small batches that are even as small as like 100 bottles. It's just...
So I'm not just saying this to talk up the product or because we're on camera. I got to be honest, and I've always, when we toured and even talking to your other business partner here today, I'm a 2 or 3 beer a week kind of guy. I like beer. My body doesn't like having 6 or 7 beers in me at one time. I get bloated, tired, whatever.
Imagine trying to run a brewery.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
You were saying this was basically the result of creativity, this one here? Like, this was just, you had a thought and you ran with it? Because this is you know what? Screw it. We're going to check off that box where we swear. This is fucking delicious. Like, this is incredible. And I'm not saying that just because I'm drinking it. I mean, if it was just a regular beer, I would just drink it and be happy. But it's got that chocolatey kind of burnt undertone in it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, we decided we should do another dark beer for the winter because it's the season for it.
And it's again, we had an extra bag of dark malt, and we're like, what are we going to do with this? Might as well make a stout.
So how long is the process? So, like, I have a shop outside of town. One of my good friends who's been on the podcast before runs a wrap shop out of it. I love the creative. Like, I'll go and take a couple drinks, and I'll sit at the shop and watch what he's doing at night, and it's kind of your get together, relax time. But you can wrap a car. Well, you can wrap half a car in a night if it's an easy job. With all of the time that goes into not only the labor, but also things sitting and yeast and all that, is it something where, like, on a Friday afternoon, you guys can shut the doors early and essentially create something over the weekend, whether it ends well or bad? Like,
no, with that Kveik, you might be able to do it, but any of our standard ales, so your stout or the red IPA over there, them I can brew it, which is about an 8-hour process for about 1,000 liters on our system, and then it'll ferment for about a week. So within about 10 days, I could probably have it in a can. If I can give it a little bit longer, it'll be a bit better.
But now, for you to try it, like, before that fermenting, how long till you know you're either onto something or you just killed 6 hours of your time? Like,
see, that's something where we have done things kind of riskily with some of our riskily.
As long as risky's legal, we're good.
Yes. It's a lot of times, like, when you're trying to refine a recipe, a lot of breweries have like a small test system, and they'll brew it a few times on that, make slight adjustments and so on. Andrew, he has very good experience. He knows what he's doing.
So bet the farm, run with it. Yeah. And this one's going to work.
And that's what we've done a couple times. It makes me nervous as the numbers guy because I don't want to brew a 1,000-liter batch that, you're putting so much yeast, malt, and time into, and then you take a single sip and you're like, no, and you have to dump it.
We had that happen. So with Y Drive Eats, it all happened really fast. Like, from point of like, okay, we're good to go, to the point of putting restaurants and breweries and LCBO and all that on there was a matter of hours or days. And and then you start to realize, like, holy crap, we need bags, we need this, we need this. One of them was tablets. And we're like, every restaurant, brewery, everybody needs a tablet to receive their orders, just like Skip and all those other bad guys.
Yep.
And we obviously weren't going to go and spend $400 on like Samsung Tab A5s or whatever the newer ones are, but we needed something that would function. So we almost made a mistake. We almost ordered the Amazon Fires because they're cheap and they're tablets, and we're like, this is perfect. They don't have the Android Play Store. And so we were like, thank God we didn't order those. And they wouldn't have been able to get the app. And so then we ended up mass ordering, and we had to take a risk because we're like, we don't have time to order one and then wait and see if it works and then order 39 more. So we're like, all right, 40 tablets. There goes $6,000, and then we just had to hope when we opened the first one it worked properly, and it did, and everything worked out. But it's risky. Like you could go home and be like, wow, I just burned $6,000 in a week. And not only that, you burn the money, but then you're also no further ahead than you were before. If you spend a week trying to make a brew, it doesn't work out properly. Not only is he like, where did that money go, but also, all right, we need to start from scratch again.
I can take that and one-up you one.
Oh, I'm sure.
So at the start of us getting into business, we signed a contract for an export deal to send our beer over to Germany and Belgium, which to us was fantastic. We make German and Belgian style beer, and they want it over there. So
that's awesome.
For us,
of course,
like,
there it's called Canadian style.
Yes, but it would be beer
Chinese food.
It would be beer that they would drink.
Yeah.
But then because of the lovely situation that we're not talking about, that just kept getting put off. And then the head of that company actually suddenly had a heart attack. And basically that contract, we're not 100% sure where it stands now.
Yep.
But in order to do that, it was going to be 10 shipping containers of 30,000 bottles each. We went out and we bought a new bottling line. So a $60,000 expense that it's still useful. It's still going to work for us, but we didn't actually have to do that right at the start. We still haven't really needed that for that capacity.
Still haven't run it. We've had it for over a year. We've just been retrofitting it slowly as we have the money to do it in time.
Yeah, 'cause if we needed it, we'd make it work. But
so I know, going back to my wine experience, they bring in companies that come in once a month and they bottle the wine for them, for the smaller guys. Is that how you guys were doing the bottled portions? I know you do cans and bottles.
We had an old bottling line that we still use.
Yeah, no, I saw that. It was like, okay.
It was originally designed for toothpaste.
I didn't know that.
And it was retrofitted to work for beer. Awesome. And on a good day, you could do about 400 bottles an hour, when in reality, it was probably closer to 200 bottles an hour. With our new line, if it was running at full capacity, it's almost 4,000 bottles an hour.
Wow. So
it goes, the labor and all the costs per bottle, I had to run it all because we were trying to apply for a grant to help out with it. It would go from our labor and all the costs in on the old line would be about $1.50 a bottle, and on the new line, if we're running at, I think I conservatively said 2,000 bottles an hour, about half the speed, and then the labor costs and cleaning costs and all of those things, it would go down to about 15 cents a bottle.
Wow. That's more margin for sure.
It's still worth it.
Yeah.
It's just we didn't have to spend that much money
on
getting
day one. Yeah.
started on day one when you're in a global pandemic and you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
But
cash
that
in your
export
pocket
deal
is kind of
would have been huge.
It's not.
It would have doubled our sales for the year.
We didn't lose anything on it as of yet, though we still don't have our permit to run. But it's funny you said, I don't want to say funny. Somebody, I'm assuming the way you said it, the person didn't survive the heart attack.
No.
And we ran into one, and also more recent, so I want to be respectful. Not that there's people in Alberta listening to this podcast. They're not one of the 6.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. If you work for the licensing department in Alberta, maybe don't listen to this. You're not going to enjoy the next part of this conversation. We had to apply for permission from the government of Alberta to operate a rideshare program. Insurance is done, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty open and shut thing. It's not a worry. It's just time consuming. And because of...
Sorry, just random question.
Yeah.
Is it easier in Alberta than Ontario?
I can't answer it honestly, for the sake that It was two. Yet? Well, yeah, it was 2.5 years to get going in Ontario because of the insurance side of things. Mm-hmm. Once we had that policy, then it was fairly easy to get that insurance company to write us an Alberta policy. So had we been starting from scratch, I think it would have been harder. And I only say that because not even the drivers, so you have your personal insurance policy on your car. Yep. Your personal insurance does not cover a single thing while you're driving for rideshare. Our policy kicks in the second you log in and start driving. You cannot have, we have not found an insurance company in Alberta yet that will let you have personal insurance on that vehicle and drive for a rideshare company. It is absolutely, even though they have zero liability. It would have
to be dedicated.
Yeah, it's that hard. And I think it's probably that the bigger guys have burned the insurance companies by maybe fabricating if they were working and not, stuff like that. But it's become hard. But our partner's out there. So he's owned a limo company, delivery company, all that stuff out there. So he's familiar with the system. So he submits it. We submit the insurance, the incorporation papers, all that kind of stuff. And it starts taking forever. And so he's chasing her. And through being a thorn in her side, he becomes very familiar with this woman. Like, they start talking every 2 days when he's checking in, and all right, I'll give you this much information, blah, blah, blah. And she finally gets to the point where she's like, you know what? She's like, today's Wednesday. She's like, I will have it for you Thursday. I'll have on Monday your paperwork to start hiring. So you have to have permission just to hire drivers, like to advertise for drivers. She's like, on Monday, you will have your paperwork to start hiring. And within 2 weeks from that, you will have your license to be able to operate. And we were like, awesome. We almost cracked open the drinks and we're like, this is good. We're good to go. She died Friday afternoon. Oh. Whole process started over again. And I was like, he sent that message to our admin chat for Alberta. And I was like, there's no way. Like, you have to be joking. He's like, he literally wrote, he's like, I'm not joking. She went home and died. And I was like, that is super sad. But where does that leave us? Like, how is your luck that bad?
There's so many things you can't control.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, I know it's like you said, the bottling line is still there. 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, that's the best money we ever spent. But I'm sure it wasn't fun when you realized it was there and it wasn't being used at the time.
Yeah.
So
it is what it is.
So we're in Peterborough, amazing town. I think we're all biased when we say that, but it's an amazing town, and a lot of fun. We've got the Lakers, we got the Pete's, which I know you guys are involved in. A lot, like, we have people come from all over for outdoor weddings and all that kind of stuff once things get back to normal. What's next for you guys? Like, I know you have to run the business in two ways. You have to expand outside of Peterborough, but you also want to be Peterborough. Like, you want to be the go-to name in Peterborough. Like, you've got one of the coolest brands on your hat there that I've ever, like, that hat alone, like merchandise and people seeing you everywhere. What's your focus? Is it split 50-50 or?
Right now we want to just take Peterborough, I think. So I wouldn't say 50-50. It's not that we're going to ignore anything outside of Peterborough. We are in like LCBOs and beer stores across Ontario. We do ship across Ontario, but right now we just want to get our name known here in Peterborough, that everyone understands we are the beer of Peterborough. We want to be involved in the community. We want to be a part of everything, and we want to see other businesses succeed here as well. So,
well, and I know from my last year here in business, because I've had businesses before that didn't matter where I lived. It was a national brand and nobody cared that I was from Peterborough. Getting into Y-Drive taught me that there is a huge market here, but there's also a huge amount of support here. And it's easy to say you support your community, but you guys truly do. And I mean, even just running into Pete's games and stuff like that, I could imagine the amount you put back into the community for all the sponsorships. And people think that when you spend X number of dollars with the Pete's to sponsor, you're not just spending it because they're selfish and charge it and you're selfish and you want the publicity. That's supporting the team. Like, the fact that kids are able to watch the Pete's play is a result of the money that sponsors are spending in order to keep that team on the ice. So there is an aspect where there's some responsibility on us as business owners. And I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of businesses say, we're from Peterborough and we're great, but then they take their paycheck and they go home and they spend it themselves. You guys are putting it right back into the community.
Sorry, what paycheck?
Yeah, exactly. No, that seems to be a common answer these days. But
no, something else that we just wanted to point out, because I see this as an opportunity, is we've been looking for a few like sporting, not local sporting clubs or whatever that we can support too, charity wise.
Yeah,
we've been going back and forth with a few different places, probably like 6 months, almost a year.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are worried just because they don't want to be associated with alcohol. But at the same time, it's like we're not trying to push your kids to drink alcohol or anything like that. It's just
we want to be able to support kids going into hockey or whatever. We're trying to give people money and support. And
which was a big thing, because growing up, me and Andrew wanted to play hockey so much.
We couldn't afford it.
We couldn't afford it. So we want to make that not a problem for somebody out there.
100%.
So if anyone is listening and their association is looking for some sort of support, let us know.
I feel like the ones that reach out, and this isn't a dig at them at all. I understand everybody has to go after sponsorship and all that, but the ones that reach out are like the Junior Petes and the ones that are they already own their pads, they already own their skates. Mom and dad already have a new minivan. Like, they're not in a position where your money is going. The ones that call you are not the ones that your money's going to make the difference between the kid playing or not playing hockey. It's the difference between how nice their hotel room is going to be on the tournament trip, and that seems unfair. Like, I agree with you. I want to get in touch with, because I get those calls all the time, and especially from old friends and stuff like that. Hey, sponsor this team, and you want to say yes to everything, but you really at a certain point start looking at how is it going to help, and
whether it's fine once a quarter, every 3 months. We rent out an ice pad. We rent out a bunch of skates and put hockey sticks in kids' hands just so that they can even just try it and see if they like hockey.
I think there might be a conversation, and this is the other, I'm not saying it's just because I'm about to bring something up, but and maybe I'll say this on air and then one of the 6 listeners will compete with me for the building. But one of the things I'm actually chasing right now is the twin pad that's going in. So I've started having those talks, and if somebody else does it, great. I just want somebody to do it. But we've started having the talks about, I want it to be the Y-Drive twin pads. It's
could
on
be a
Lansdowne.
Partnership of some sort.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like you said, it wouldn't cost that much to say, like, free skate is truly free skate now. And put a bunch of sticks over in the. I mean, you can buy hockey sticks for $15 nowadays at Canadian Tire. They're not amazing quality. They don't have the flex and all that. But for the sake of kids that can't afford hockey sticks, being able to use a hockey stick to play with their friends.
Do they really need a really good snapshot?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they can't do a snapshot.
If it's their first time playing, they're not flexing that stick anyway.
We used to do the backyard rink, and if the better your shot is, just meant the further in the snowbank you had to go.
But I think it's a matter of the city and the organizers realizing that it doesn't have to be that level. Because if you've got a league that focuses on let's let 300 kids play hockey that otherwise couldn't afford it, it doesn't have to be every kid goes out and spends $1,000 on equipment, and it doesn't have to be the nice. It could just be kids with skates on, hockey sticks, minimal pads,
good
playing
old
hockey.
shinny.
Probably a helmet. Just
Stay
safe.
That's why the business guy comes along. He's got the ideas. It keeps us safe.
Insurance. I love insurance.
We got that. I think when we were in public school, we were able to at least go skiing.
Yep.
There was some sort of support for that, and you just had to take your bicycle helmet, so your head was protected. So
yeah, if the school got you home in one piece, then they were off the hook, right?
I know we're not exactly in those times anymore. You got to be a little bit more protective of your children, and
yeah, I've got a 7-year-old.
You can't take risks anyway.
Yeah. It's funny. So we have a 7-year-old, and my wife is. I pick on her in every episode, so I feel bad, but she's a helicopter mom. Like she worries about everything.
She's a fantastic mother.
Yeah.
Just
exactly. She's the reason. It's the business creative, right? She keeps them safe, and I push them to try new things. And there's like the other day we went home. There's some kids tobogganing down, but of course the hill ends right at the street that we live on, and it's like, all right, go. And she's like, what do you mean go? Like, we can't see them. And I'm like, it's fine. There's 7 kids. We have a 1 in 7 shot that the kid that goes out in front of the car is not ours. Like, those are pretty good odds. But I agree with you that kids nowadays don't all get the same opportunity, because I think, not to get too political or too talking about the economy nowadays, but you've got the kids that can easily afford $1,000 a year in equipment, and then you've got the kids that absolutely can't, and we're kind of growing out of the kids that maybe can, or they're just about there. And
middle class is starting to kind of disappear.
100%.
You're either one or the other.
Yep, 100%. And if you guys ever have the opportunity, or if anyone's ever listening to this, same as Call Haven, give us a call, because that's definitely something where I think every business can feel good giving back to those. I know the teams try really hard, like the Petes try to donate what they can and support the smaller leagues, and soccer is going to be the same way with ECFC, and lacrosse does the same thing. Even the Evans family does the same thing. I mean, those guys are out there coaching kids and donating sticks and all that kind of stuff. You got to do everything you can at this point. So getting back to the brewery, getting back to drinking, getting back to summer and things opening back up. I'm really excited because when I went out there, things weren't up and running outside yet. But I know that's something you guys are really excited for, is to start being able to host events, host parties. I imagine that everybody who missed out on their wedding and their 40th anniversary and all that kind of stuff over the past 2 years is now going to be trying to make up for that and start planning events. And you guys are going to be right there at the front with a space to do it and beer to drink and kind of put it all together for them.
Oh yeah, we can't wait. We've started now in the last couple weeks our small events, just like the small things in the tap room, trivia, darts night, and it's just great to see people again.
Yep.
I know it's going to take a little while for people to get comfortable again, but we want to see them. We want to, again, that's even just being part of the community, is being able to see people again. But yeah, looking forward, we're really excited for the spring and summer. I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic year, and we're just going to be.
How does someone get involved in that? Because I know, like, Matt and I went out earlier in the week and we did trivia. We did not do trivia well, but we did trivia. But we thought going into this, we knew the Office TV show well. We knew it about 15 and a half out of 48. So we did not know it as well as we thought. But how does someone, because I am dying for that. I have a busy life, as a lot of people do, but I still want that 2 hours where I can escape and play darts, or I know.
Just forget that you're running a company.
Yeah, like I know Everett mentioned painting, like those paint classes where all of a sudden your wife brings something home and you're like, there's no way you painted that. It's
March 18th.
March 18th. So is it just go to your website? Is it limited capacity? What's going on?
So thankfully things are opening up more and more now, and we did get actually an additional space in the last, I guess it's probably been 5 months now, but 5 months flies by these days.
So besides you, like, you took over more space?
Yeah, took over more space. Right now it's warehousing, but we use it
We
sometimes
hosted
for
a disco in there around Christmas.
That's
or
awesome.
Halloween.
Halloween. It was a Halloween disco.
Time flies.
So we have extra space for it, but right now we're just trying to make it, as easy as possible. You don't have to register. Just come, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Though
trivia and
in the
darts.
next month or two, things are starting to pick up more and more, and just so that nobody's disappointed, they don't come to the front door and are like, hey, I'm here for trivia. We are going to have to start doing registrations.
Bar's still open, though.
Yes.
Bar's still open.
Yeah, so
And
you can.
everything is on our website. So if you go
on
to
our
our
event
events page, you'll know right away whether you need to register or not.
And you guys are just, I'm obviously aware because I've been there once before, but just so everyone's aware, you guys are in behind kind of where, I'm not going to say up the road from Capital Taxi because that would be probably wrong of me to say, but
we'll delete that.
yeah,
part.
where you're in behind like the Best Buy area, and
behind
just
Best Buy
off
and
on Rye
Valley
Street.
Village. Up the street from the new casino.
Yep. Well, that's a good one.
And we'll be
Yeah.
upping our signage shortly. It's on the to-do list. As the weather gets nicer, we can actually drill holes.
And the great thing about our spot is, you were mentioning before, like the outdoor portion. So we're excited to, open up our patio again. But we also have a green space behind us that we haven't really been able to take advantage of yet.
I heard you had a boat inside. I left that topic alone because I wanted to ask you about it.
That's my boat. I'm hoping to actually put it on a lake this year. Last year we just parked it out front of the brewery and we served beer off of it a couple times.
That's awesome.
Why the hell not? And Haven itself, we're trying to go a little bit more for a nautical theme.
With our last name being Anker, it just seemed fitting.
Yep.
That's actually pretty cool.
And there's a
there's
a hidden anchor in our logo.
And our haven is the water. I'm a water guy. But
He
everyone
likes
has
water.
their own haven.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Frozen.
Did you just come up with the new motto for a company?
Well, that's why
Everybody
that
has their
is-
own haven.
that
Is it
is-
actually?
that is our motto.
Or find your haven, whatever it is.
And
I learned
that's
some today.
Yeah, that's part of
It's frozen water because I love to play hockey.
Guess I'm not
or
getting
it's out on the
publishing on
boat.
that one. It already
Find your
existed.
haven.
But yeah, no, that's something that we're working hard on now, is to tell our story, because another part of it, it's not just that we're a safe haven in craft beer, it's that everyone has their own haven.
Yeah.
Whether it's, being out on the lake on your boat, whether it's sitting dockside at your cottage, whether it's working on your car in your garage. These are all just great places to enjoy yourself, tune out, but also enjoy a good beer or 5.
So in the sense of, or for the sake of local business, supporting local business, so we'll get to the aspect in a second that we're hoping to do deliveries for you. You guys already do deliveries yourself. You can also, I believe, for the time being, get you through Skip the Dishes. You can go drink it at your spot, or you can also just go and pick it up at the store at Haven Brewery.
Yep.
Are you guys able to say which places in town somebody can also go and buy your product?
100%. So we've been working on partnering with more and more restaurants and different places in town.
Now that they're getting back to opening, we'll get into more again.
Because I'm not a huge at-home beer drinker. Yeah. I'm a cottage beer drinker. I'm also a go and sit at a bar, watch a game, relax. Because, again, you mentioned, like, forget you're a business owner for a couple hours. I got a 7-year-old at home. I'm not going home to relax. That does not happen. So, like, I'll again, going back to this is delicious. And I realize this is a specialty, so it might not be available outside of your store. But where can I go to drink it?
Great question. So yeah, we've been really pushing to more and more restaurants. Of course, it's been difficult, and we're trying to help them out too through these times where you don't know if you're going to be shut down next month or not. But thankfully, yeah, we've built a few relationships over the last year and a half, and there's quite a few places. So they are actually all listed on our website as well, because I'm sure I won't be able to list all of them.
It's not fair if you name half and not the other half, right? But where's your favorite? What's your favorite 3 places to go have one aside from your desk?
See, that's the problem. It's just so much easier at my desk. No. So we've recently
right now too.
we've recently developed a really good relationship with Om Patel at Dirty Burger.
Right. And they're awesome people.
Yep. Yeah. And he's got a little like bottle shop there too. So he's really pushing the nice beers that come locally. Mm-hmm. And I mean, who can't go for a good burger at the end of the day? He's
so passionate about his food. Like, it kind of matches right up with you guys in terms of, that's a guy who he was like there's so many beer options when you started making beer, and you were still like, you know what? I can do my version of that. And he did it with burgers, and he killed it. Like, it's one of the best burgers in town by far.
Yeah. You have any favorites?
Marty Moo's. We had their food last week.
Again, it's Marty Moo's, yeah. Like,
it's homemade food, but it's delicious.
Yeah. It's that food that, you know, just reminds you of mom's cooking. Like, you're just so happy to have a chicken pot pie from there. If you can get it, they often sell out because they're that good.
My wife got me onto them years ago because it's been there for so long.
Yeah. Yep.
And I wasn't familiar with it. And, she got me hooked on it for sure.
Yeah.
I live down in Peterborough, so I'm a regular at Moody's in Millbrook. Mm-hmm. They absolutely love our amber and just want to see us succeed.
I knew that was coming eventually. I knew that was coming.
I keep moving over slightly.
That's the big thing. It's just there's so many restaurants that, you know, they want to see us succeed. We want to see them succeed. Yep. Like, I have to mention Nature's Plate.
Yeah.
We're in the talks with them too to see if we can start up a little bottle shop there.
I haven't actually ever been in there, and
it's surprising because, you know, it's vegan food.
It's not that I haven't been in because I don't want to. I haven't been in. It's actually on our list. So for our 30 and 30 for launching, they're in our top 30, which is they're the only one on there that I put on there that I haven't personally eaten. Like,
highly suggest trying their nachos. You will be blown away. And you would think that it has meat in it, but no.
Or their chicken wings. They're non-chicken wings. Those were surprising.
It really threw me off because honestly, I didn't expect to enjoy everything there, but.
I've actually never been against vegetarian food.
I'm not against it, but like when you're trying to pretend, or not pretend, but, you know, mimic meat, that's a challenging thing.
It is. I'm from the. I know how to throw a burger on the barbecue and cook it and make it and what toppings to put on to make it how I like it. Yeah. And so that's what I eat. I know how to grill a steak. I know how to order McDonald's in the drive-thru. I know how to do those things.
But then you take that burger and you make it out of beans. How do you cook that?
If I won the lottery tomorrow and I had a personal chef, 100% I'd enjoy 2 of my 3 meals a day being vegetarian, and my body would thank me for it.
Of course.
I just don't know I mean, I know how to go home and make a salad by throwing like chopped up carrots and lettuce and stuff like that together. But that's about as far as I can take it, and I'm going to run out of options really fast. So no, I have nothing. I've some salads and some vegetarian and even some tofu. Like order noodles with tofu in it instead of meat is delicious. I just can't afford to always eat vegetarian if I can't make it myself.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, it was interesting.
Yeah, great food. Anyone else?
Who else?
I was waiting to see how long I was going to go for.
I was tempted to just leave it, but
There's many more. But.
Yeah, like, how many do you think you're in Peterborough?
probably about 30 restaurants now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
There's
there's
a lot
coming
out
and
there
going during
still
the
that we
pandemic.
want to get into, but
Yeah, which we're working on. We have a few
we're coming
plans
for you.
that.
And you guys are Ontario wide in the LCBO?
Yeah, especially with Nathan's Drinking the Bronin, which is another brand we absorbed this past year. So High Roads
Hides
Brewing.
it down below. This is fine.
Yeah, so High Roads Brewing. So
Okay.
it's a couple of my brewing buddies. I worked with them for a few years, and
Yep.
they've been contract brewing at other breweries, and they needed a new home for it during the pandemic. They both got really busy with their other jobs. They both basically run breweries.
So that's awesome. So you acquired a brand or a
Yep.
brew, but not necessarily due to negative circumstance. It wasn't due to like they were going under, they couldn't sell it, anything like that. It was actually a positive reason.
Yeah, they
That's
needed a
awesome.
new home for it, and so we brew it, and we've nailing it down and getting a little bit more consistent, and it's probably in 150 to 200 LCBOs across Ontario. So we have the capacity to do it, and then we'll start relaunching some of their other styles soon, I think. But it's been a good experience.
That's awesome. So when you guys started, did you kind of clean slated, or did you carry anything over from
We
previous-
carried-
the unnamed?
Yes. We carried over most of the beers. Over the last few years, they haven't had a brewmaster on staff. So the brewer we kept works his ass off. He's a great guy, but he's not a brewmaster by any means. He can follow instructions, but since we've taken over, it's been a lot of just refining the recipes, getting all the processes tighter.
The Nathan touch.
No, actually, it's my touch because this is process.
Oh, sorry,
Process.
the Andrew touch. Sorry,
The process.
Sorry. I read my note there wrong.
All good.
I'm
All
horrible
good.
with names.
All good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just tightening up the processes. So even this week, today and yesterday, we brewed a couple batches of our Keller beer because we need some more for kegs coming up and another batch of cans. But it was just teaching him how to fill out the brew sheet so that we can track every step of the process, because that's the biggest thing. Every variable has a difference. If I was 2 degrees warmer, it's going to change the end result of the beer.
How much waste? Waste is a bad word, but because I don't want to make it sound
much
like
loss?
it's wasteful. Yeah, how much product doesn't hit the shelves due to just something going wrong in it?
The average in craft breweries for what you brew versus what hits packaging, the loss is about 25%.
Okay, this is a quarter. That's significant.
Yeah.
Wait, now when you say the average, I'm assuming you said that because yours is less, or
Getting it there.
Okay.
Getting it there. If it was Molson or Coors, they do high gravity brewing, so they'd brew 1,000 liters at 15% and water it down to the 4.5-5% you get. So one of my friends used to work at one of the big breweries, and out of one single batch of brew, so say it was then 1,000 liters, that was probably 100,000 liters because their systems are so much bigger. They got 27 different brands by just watering it down different amounts or putting it in a different can. So some of the very well-known beers you know
we
are,
won't mention
we
names.
won't
the
message
same
names,
beers. Yeah.
are the exact same liquid watered down to the exact same point, and it's literally they change the can. And some is a bargain brand and some is a premium brand. The liquid is the same. The can and the label are the only things different.
yeah, no,
Well,
I was
it
learning
changes
that.
from you paying $2 a can to
$5 a can. for the
I
same
won't name
liquid.
names and throw them under the bus, but I might have learned that a couple hours ago in the vodka world, and it was
Yep.
like, all right, so I'm going to save myself $30 a week right now. It's that happens with everything though.
Yeah.
I think it's nowadays brand is such an important thing. It's no different than you guys bringing on somebody else's brew and of course putting a little bit of a spin on it and doing what you feel would improve it. But just having your brand behind it, your marketing behind it can make it more of a success and ultimately worth more.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Anything you guys are hoping to do in the next? I know it's a very vague question, but aside from things opening back up, brewing more beer, hitting more store shelves, getting more fridges in people's kitchens, what's the next step for you guys? Like, what are you excited for? What's your dream?
We're working on a few things. We're planning a few beer launches for this year to help us get into more places in town. So we're hoping to launch a light lager to compete with the big guys, just because a lot of the sports bars types in town, they're as much as they are happy to have a craft beer, if they could have a house lager that's cheaper and made in town, so that's what we're working on.
And then, it's amazing the amount of people that just walk into the brewery and say, "I don't drink craft beer."
Yep.
And that's why, even for us, when it comes to our marketing, we try to actually stay away from using the word craft or even premium.
You said at the beginning.
It's beer, as you said.
My issue is, like, what I run into is I don't know anything about the beer world. And I know more now after the last 45 minutes. Oh, he's giving me my 45-minute signal this time, too. He didn't do that last week.
So with that,
yeah,
I'm going to invite you to the brewery.
Okay.
We do what we call beer school once a month.
He stole my segue away from me, but yes.
Yeah, we did beer school.
Yeah, no, and I'm really excited for that. That's I want to touch on the beer school in a second, but I just want to kind of finish the thought there that,
of course,
you guys put 6 cans out on the table today when you got here, and we had to kind of spin it around, and it's a little bit of like, oh, he grabbed his, like, that's mine, and then I was like, all right, and I'll be honest, I'm not an IPA guy, so I had an IPA in my hand at first. I was like, all right, on to the next, and you don't know what you're going to crack open. And here, when you guys bring 6 free beer, and I try one, now what I tried was amazing. Had I opened an IPA and not known what it is, I open it, I maybe don't enjoy that flavor. It's not a loss. I didn't pay for it, but I also didn't buy 12 or 24 of them. Yeah. You guys have the beer school. We're going to touch on that. That's incredible, and I'm actually really excited for that personally, because that's what got me to like cocktails. That's what got me to like wine, was learning about it, not necessarily drinking it. But is there something else that somebody can do? Because I don't remember the last time I went and bought a case of beer at the beer store. Like, I want flavor, and so I want something like this. I don't want a Coors or a Heineken or something like that. If I have to drink it, I'll drink it, but it's not what I'm going for. There's the beer school. Anyone that can go, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I want to hear about that in a second, but what can somebody else, like, is there research that somebody can do? Is there an easy beer for someone to start with that everybody likes? Like, what's the first step?
So what I'm going to suggest, Andrew can get into more of the technical side, is just come visit us. Come visit our tap room. A lot of people are surprised.
We're about to have 12 taps, and we still have more that we will crack.
A lot of people are still surprised that we even have a tap room, because they think we're just a brewery.
Yep.
We have a tap room. We do flights. With a flight, like, come in, tell me what beer you like. I'll find the 3 closest beers, and I guarantee one of those you're actually going to enjoy.
Or tell me you don't like beer, and what do you like, and I will find something you like.
That's the other big thing.
That's one of my fun games. I have all kinds of friends who don't drink beer, and it's like, you just haven't tried the right one. There's beers that taste like everything.
And we get it quite regularly that, okay, yes, it is the fairer sex that typically say, yeah, I don't drink beer, but we give them a few samples, and typically they'll find something that they actually enjoy, and they're like, oh, I can actually enjoy a beer. It's just you have to find the right one.
I have an idea, and this actually just popped in my head, so before Everett throws something at me, because I didn't bring this up earlier in our meeting, what if, and I have to check in our system to see if we can make this work. You guys brought a variety 6-pack today. You can buy individual cans from you guys.
Correct. Yep.
What if we on the Y Drive Eat side, we offer free delivery specifically on that kit, and you guys pre-prepare them. Somebody can then, instead of buying 6 of these, 6 of those, 6 of those, they can buy a variety 6-pack. We'll deliver that one time for them for free.
Yep.
And they pay for the product, but we'll cover the delivery cost. That will let them find their favorite.
100%.
We already have those packs at the brewery, so it's easy.
So yeah, we do.
So I just gave away $5 for nothing.
Well, we do seasonal packs, for Advent. We did an Advent
the 12
pack,
days
which
of
was
Christmas.
That's awesome.
12 days of
Christmas. We'll do a full 24 next year.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about this school, because I'm assuming it does a few things. It gets me out of my house, away from my 7-year-old screaming to go when he goes to bed, and it teaches me something about beer. So
definitely does that.
Tell me about this.
So beer school came out of the idea, and this might sound ridiculous to some people out there. There was one of our licensees, a restaurant, that reached out to us, or I guess we reached out to them to see if they wanted to buy a new keg that week.
Okay.
They quite simply said, the guy that taps our kegs isn't here today, so we couldn't tap your keg, so we're not going to order one this week. And we're like, tapping a keg is actually super easy. It doesn't take that much time. So we actually sent an employee over to just tap it for them, get them flowing again. But out of that came the idea of there's a surprising lack of knowledge out there sometimes on the licensee side of what goes into, you know, this is how you tap a keg, this is how you properly pour a beer, this is how you properly taste it, and so on.
So this goes so much beyond just like, hey, here's a flight of beer and I'm going to tell you how it was made.
Yeah. So we did.
Awesome. It then became something that we wanted to offer to the public as well. That, first off, you get an explanation of, okay, this is actually how beer is made. This is how important each and every ingredient is. For example, water is 98% of beer. So if you have crap water to start with, good luck making a good beer. Surprisingly, not a lot of people have thought of that. But then it just kind of grew from that there's so much effort that goes into, okay, the malts that we use, since we do traditional European style, we have to import it from Europe. The yeast that goes into it, the different flavors that you can mimic using hops. A lot of people will see a beer like, for example, or hef. It says it has flavors of banana. A lot of people assume then it has banana in it.
No. You just came up with like the other ingredients made that flavor.
Yeah, so the yeast will make that kind of flavor, or different combinations of hops, especially when it comes to IPAs.
What's the liquor one? Coke and amaretto makes Dr. Pepper. Like that kind of mentality. If you put these two together, suddenly you get this third option.
Exactly. This isn't in it, but you get those flavors.
That's awesome.
So then it just kind of grew from that.
In front of you, if you had it at 0 degrees, like a standard Coors would be served at, it wouldn't taste like much. It'd be really easy drinking. Whereas you bring it up 10 degrees, it's chocolatey.
You get the flavor.
Well, even like our Schwartz beer, when it's cold, it's roasty. When it's warmer, it's more chocolatey. And the same with that. Like
cold, it tastes more coffee. Warmer, it tastes more chocolate.
Well, even when I was in school in our tasting class, we simply did a blind tasting, and they put 4 beers in front of us, and we had to tell them what we thought. And our tasting notes were super different for each one. It was the same beer. One was in a bottle, one was in a can, one was off draft.
I get that one. They're definitely, I know, just bottled to draft is totally different. Like I really enjoy draft beer. I enjoy canned beer. I'm not a huge bottle beer. And so no, I can definitely see the differences there.
But that's even something where going to beer school, we can teach you how to serve a bottle a little differently, and you might enjoy it more.
Yeah, and we do bottle condition versus forced carbonation in our bottles. There's all kinds of difference. So
there's so many variables that go.
We did the one class, and if we get it to the point that there's enough interest, we want to do kind of separate styles of class. One, the home drinker, what they want to learn about what goes into the beer and how to taste a beer. But we also want to do the one specialized for the people working at the restaurant, so we can teach them how to clean their draft lines, what to watch for, why if it tastes like this, why it tastes like that.
Yeah,
and then even homebrewers who want to up their craft or refine their class or process, understand some of the science. Like I've been doing it for a while.
That was a big part of my job previously in automotive. Was I was also training the salespeople on some of the stuff that I was doing, and quite simply, you can't sell something if you don't understand it. You don't know something about it. And that's where we want to get more involved with the restaurants. So when somebody walks into Dirty Burger and asks, okay, what beer should I try on tap? They can say, oh, I was just at Haven Brewing last week. They taught me all this stuff. This is why their beer's so special.
No, I agree with that. Like going back to my sales days, even just Future Shop, one of my first sales jobs, I remember like they shipped me off to Belleville to do what's called a calibration training. So to learn the differences between a calibrated TV and a non-calibrated. Obviously on their end, all they wanted me to do was sell the $200 calibration that cost them 2 hours at a guy $18 an hour to do, right? But you go back and now you have it in your head, like you're stuck on it. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the product itself, but if you brought the bartender to your facility and you sat with her for a few hours as a group, but you sat with her for a few hours, you teach her, you feed her a few beers, you give some lunch, whatever, she's sure as shit going to sell more of your product that week.
Yeah.
100%.
If you can make
from a business standpoint,
if you
it
can
makes
find
perfect
them their
sense.
favorite new drink,
Yep.
that was the best thing I ever did.
Yep.
Like, any person in any tap room of the brewery I was running, if I made a beer and made it their favorite, every time that on their shift, that's the beer that sold the most.
That's awesome.
It was each server, there would be one that sells more than the other, or maybe your light lager was always your number one, but there was always another beer that, depending who was on shift, based on their favorite, they pushed. And it was really easy to see.
And it's the local aspect too. So like you go into a local restaurant, a local sports bar, a local pub, wherever you are, the number one question in that building is, aside from maybe what's on special, is what's on tap. And all of a sudden you have somebody that's passionate about a product behind there. It's the first one said, because I don't think traditionally you get through the entire list. If there's 11 beers on tap, somebody's going to be like, okay, that's cool, after like 3 or 4.
Even if
you're
you
like us.
list it all off, they've mentally stopped
They
listening.
remember the
after
first or in the last. That's it.
Yeah. Whereas, like, me, I'll go into a restaurant, they'll list all 12, and then I'll order a root beer or a Coke, because nothing on tap is craft and acceptable.
Legally speaking,
Because I don't want to spend $10 on a beer I'm not going to enjoy.
Oh, for sure. But legally speaking, I don't think, because I've had to learn a lot about the AGCO requirements and that, a restaurant can't give a sample, right? Like, they can't, like, it's not like, I'm trying to think of where else
They're
you
not
would do that.
supposed to.
Yeah, so which ones do? No. But so that unfortunately takes that off the table, because then it's like, here, try this, and if you don't like it, try, like, you know what I mean? It takes the risk away from it. Because there is risk in beer. I mean, even out of your 6 options, there's going to be, say, 4 I like, 2 I personally don't, and it's just taste. It's just
everyone's
me.
taste different.
And so you start talking a place that has 11 or 12 different beers on tap, you're rolling the dice. Like, they could all be good beers. They could all be the 11 best brewers with their best product each. As a person, you're still only going to like maybe 60, 70, 80% of them.
My only argument with that would be that most places have a Molson or Coors contract. Therefore, if you have 12, 10 out of those, you already know exactly what they are.
I ran into that when I was selling cell phones. I couldn't stand selling Rogers, and it was nothing against the product. It was actually us setting it up was painstaking. It would crash. It took twice as long. It paid less. And our Rogers rep used to come in, and I was the highest selling in the store every month. But she'd come in and she'd be like, your manager just told me that you sold 84 activations last month and you sold 1 Rogers. And I'd be like, man, I didn't even know I sold, like, I must have made a mistake and sold the wrong phone. And she gets so mad. But it was like, no, like, it's not fun for me to sell. And it's kind of the flip side of that I'm not trying to pick on the big breweries. They have a place in the world, but it takes away from the experience of going to, and I'm sorry if I name anyone that's not carrying your product, but like, you have all these local, like Riley's and 180 and all these local establishments where you want to go there, you want to support the staff, you want to support the owners, you want to support the products even. Like, you look at 180, their product is coming from local. And then you get there and your drink menu is big brand distillery and big brand beer, unless you're smart enough to look for the 1 or 2 options that might be local. And
both places that we're trying to get into. So
Lang,
putting it
call
out
him, and Jim, definitely call him.
Yeah, we used to be in 180. But then there was the ownership change.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's like
Are you saying, okay, I'm going to throw this out there, and I don't have anything against all 3 of the owners. He's marking it so he can cut this out. But are you saying that ownership change wasn't good for you? Because like, you'd be the only people in the world that were like, man, that sucks that just happened.
Well, it could be as simple as it happened during COVID and they haven't been on draft.
Yeah.
Like, it's been strange for that. And there's been a lot of ownership changes.
That's been a big struggle for us.
And some of it is they had bad rep, the old ownership.
Well, a big challenge during the pandemic is you have these contracts with the big companies that force you, okay, 80% of your taps have to be this. If you're trying to cut costs and you already have that contract in place, you're going to honor that contract and you're just going to leave your other 2 taps empty for the time.
So the big brewing companies are essentially tying them up and saying, if you want to carry our product, you need to give us X number of shelf space or X number of sales.
Because a lot of the times they're the ones that have installed their tap system or the fridges or
so body
something
shops
like
do that, right? So a body shop will call their paint supplier and be like, if you want me to keep using your product, then you come in and put a $250,000 paint booth in my building. Exactly. And then you're stuck with that paint supplier for the next 10 years.
Yeah, no, that's what the big guys do.
The thing that we like to put out there is, because there has been a lot of changeover during the pandemic, if your restaurant has switched over hands, that contract is no longer in place.
And the equipment's still yours.
It's still yours.
They're not
they
going
can't
to
walk
take it
away
away.
and take
So
it
all of
from
a sudden,
you.
all 10 of your taps are open instead of 8 of them having been spoken for by Molson.
And
That's
if you want
interesting.
to support local, then buy some of our beer.
Exactly. No, that's interesting, and we'll start to wrap up here. Unless you guys have anything you want to add, I definitely wanted to touch on that beer school, because that's such a cool idea. And anyone looking for entertainment space or a venue this summer, definitely give you guys a shout. But yeah, hopefully we start seeing in more and more restaurants, more and more sporting events out there this summer and going into the fall and winter hockey season. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time for Peterborough. I know it doesn't always feel like it because we just went through some really shitty years, but it's given a lot of opportunity. As you alluded to, there's a lot of new restaurant and bar owners, there's a lot of new people opening up businesses, which is the whole point of listening to this podcast. And it's allowing for conversations. Like, I know there's some stuff in my head already about people you want to work with and sponsoring child sports and stuff like that even after this is over, we're going to talk about. That's what makes Peterborough business incredible, is supporting each other. Me hooking you up with a restaurant owner doesn't benefit me at all, but it's just the right thing to do versus you go into the big city and all of a sudden it's dog eat dog world and everyone's looking out for themselves. So I really appreciate you guys coming down. Really appreciate you bringing a beer. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch and start moving forward as things start to open back up.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
This was the quietest one Matt's ever done. He's just
because I don't have a microphone.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, maybe. We failed on that one. All right, well, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for listening to episode 7. We are back next week. We do not have a guest in mind yet, so if you want to be on, give us a shout.